today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make a felt donut you can turn into a Christmas ornament. So we'll start with our donut template. You can either make one by tracing lids or any round objects you can find at home that you want to be the size of your donut, and then a smaller circle that you're going to trace to be the size of the center of the donut. And then you'll trace that same circle again to be the center of the frosting, and then you can just draw squiggly lines around that to make your frosting. Once you've made the template, then you can go ahead and start cutting it out, and then next you're going to start tracing it on the tan felt. Now I'm going to trace my donut shape twice on the tan felt because I'll need one piece for the front and one piece for the back of the donut. After tracing the top and the bottom pieces of the donut, we're going to go ahead and cut them out now. And cutting out the center can be the trickiest part. Now we're going to cut out the frosting portion on our template, and just a reminder, it's always the most challenging to cut out the center. Next, I'm going to trace the frosting template onto my white felt, and I'm using a water-soluble fabric marker here. So that way, after I trace it and cut it out, then I can go ahead and rinse the fabric to remove any excess color. You can do the same thing with a marker or a pen, but you just have to be more careful because you can leave permanent marks on your project and you don't want to ruin it. And as you can see, next I'm just cutting it out, and again that center part is always the trickiest. Next I'm going to attach the frosting to the top of the donut, and I'm going to use some white thread for this. So once I thread my needle, I'm going to go ahead and start stitching the center part together. When tying off my thread at the end, I usually use 3 to 4 knots so that it doesn't come through the other side of the felt. And now we're going to stitch the outside of the frosting onto the donut using my white thread for this one. And just like before, I like to tie it off with 3 to 4 knots at the end. Okay, this is my favorite part, onto the fun stuff. Now we're going to start sewing on our sprinkles. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the pink craft cord, and you'll need a needle that has a really large opening in order to do that. I just tie an end on one end of the craft cord, and I keep the other end loose, and I just stitch random lines going in all different directions to make it look like sprinkles. Now I'm going to start sewing the top of our donut down to the bottom of our donut, and I kind of failed on this. I needed some tan thread, but I didn't have any, so I just used white, which was the closest I had. And I started by sewing the center pieces together. We're going to do that part first, and then after that we're going to start stitching the outer edges of the donut together and stuffing it with our polyfill. Once I finish sewing the centers together, I like to tie it off with 3 to 4 knots just to keep the thread from going through the felt. Next, I'm going to get started sewing the outside edges of the donut together, and I'm just going to do a little bit at a time because I'm going to start filling it with the polyfill as I go. So as you can see, I pause every so often just to start filling it, because if you wait too long, it's going to be too hard to reach in the inside. It's going to be too hard to fill it. And here I am at the end, just gonna tie it off, and again I like to do 3 to 4 knots so it doesn't go through the felt. And finally, this last step is optional. I'm turning my donut into a Christmas ornament, so I'm taking one more piece of that pink craft cord, and I'm gonna pick a spot that looks like a good place to be the top of my donut, threading it through, and then I'm gonna tie a couple of knots at the top so that I've got a big loop so that I can hang it on my Christmas tree. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.